What is up, YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Weathering the Storm, an Orlando Storm podcast. Now, let me just say, I just got finished recording this video for a good 35 minutes, and at about the 10-second mark, the audio and the video mismatched. So the whole video was ruined, and now I have to record this whole thing. So I'm doing it for y'all. I'm recording the whole video over again. I know, woe is me. You have it so horrible, but my lord, man, there's nothing more infuriating than recording the whole video. You think you did it perfectly. You're like, man, I did good. And you go back and rewatch it, and at the 10-second mark, from then on, it was ruined. And I wasted my whole time saying all of that. But who cares? The second thing I'm going to say is, Orlando Storm, can you send your boy a hat? Can you get your boy a hat? I have to keep wearing this UCF merch on here because it's Orlando and it's the closest thing I got. Can you get your boy a hat? I need some Orlando Storm branding on here. But I ordered the hoodie that y'all have on your website, so I'll have that hopefully soon if they send it out fast enough. I'm still waiting on it to get shipped, but man, get your boy a hat. I need some merch. I need some stuff. I hated they had a meet and greet and I couldn't go to it, and I was so upset because I'm just not close enough. I'm a good, hour and a half away, and I can't make that drive. But man, get your boy a hat. If not, I'll go on the link and I'll buy a hat. I hope y'all have a hat when that official merch comes out, because I need a hat. I got like 30 UCF hats. I need some Orlando Storm. Let me get the collection going. But anyways, today we got a good episode. We're going to be talking about Jon Gruden, decorated head coach, very long resume. We're going to get into all of it. We're going to get into the good. We're going to get into the bad, and why the Orlando Storm hiring him as the head coach would be a home run hire. I can't think of anyone else that would be a better hire for the Orlando Storm than Jon Gruden, and there's many reasons for that. But first, I kind of want to just get into his coaching history, where he started, where he ended, and how that went, his ups and downs, and everything in between. But he started his career with the Oakland Raiders in 1998, and really his most notable accomplishment there for those 3 years that he coached, maybe 3 or 4, 1998 to 2001, was he made the AFC Championship game, and that happened in 2000. He finished his career with the Oakland Raiders with a 38-26 record, about 60%. So, pretty solid. Not like Patriots dynasty run, but pretty good. And his playoff record is 2-2, so an even 500 there with that AFC Championship run I mentioned. But really, the most significant thing about his career with the Raiders is how it ended, and that was via trade. You almost never see a head coach trade, but we saw one there, and it was significant. It wasn't just, you give me the head coach and I'll give you a 7th-round pick and a little bit of cash. There was a decent amount of cash, but it wasn't a 7th-round pick. We're talking 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders, and $8 million in exchange for Jon Gruden. So, I wasn't really looking at what the media was saying at the time. I was probably about 1 year old when this happened. 2001, I'd be 1. So, but I can imagine they had to be dunking all over Tampa Bay, right? Like, to give up that much for a coach when you can just hire one just for money, to give, that's a significant swing. And luckily for them, they hit a home run. In his first season, which was in 2002, his entire tenure 2002 to 2008, but in his first season, they went 12-4 and undefeated in the playoffs, including a Super Bowl win. And you want to know who he won his Super Bowl against? Yeah, the Oakland Raiders, 48-21, um, came back, and it wasn't even close. 48 to 21. My lord, man, you got to think, if you're the Raiders and you're like, of course we have to face this guy in the Super Bowl, of course, but you have to win. You think like that looks so bad, and obviously Oakland went on to really do a bunch of nothing after he left, and after that Super Bowl loss, and he was the youngest Super Bowl winner ever at that time, 39 years old. Um, Pretty incredible stuff there. And overall, he finished his career with Tampa Bay with a 3-2 record in the playoffs and a 57-55 record, about 500, about a 500 winning percentage there. Um, and then they let him go at the end of that tenure. Just went in another direction. Couldn't really ever recapture that season, that first season of the Super Bowl win. But when it was good, man, that was good. And they made two other wild card appearances, but that was really it. They kind of stayed right there in that 500 realm. Um, and then his career ended there, and he didn't get another head coaching gig again until who else? Who would you know? The Oakland Raiders, and they came back. They came calling in 2018, and then they transitioned to the Las Vegas Raiders, and he would resign 5 games into the season of the 2021 season after a 3-1 start, and we'll see why. You're like, oh, why would he leave? It wasn't for football, I can tell you that, and we'll get into it later. But he kind of was forced to resign. I don't know, maybe he wasn't forced, but either way, he wasn't fired. He resigned and ended his tenure there with a 22-31 record, about a 41% win rate there, and yeah, that's kind of his head coaching career summarized. Total, he has a 117 wins to 112 losses, just over 50%. Postseason 5-4, again just over 50%. And his career postseason and regular season 112 to 116, again just over 500%. So he's about a 50-50 coach when it comes to win loss. So overall, like the records are not that impressive, but he's at least a winning coach with a Super Bowl under his record. And the stuff that I'm going to kind of get into of why he would be such a home run hire, I think it goes beyond just his win-loss record, and we'll get into that. But really, the first thing is his offensive prowess. I mean, he's an offensive mastermind, and his scheme is based primarily on a West Coast offense. He has his own flavor to it, but that's the roots of it, which puts a lot of weight on the quarterback. The quarterback of this type of scheme is going to need to be the type of guy that's in the film room 24/7, knowing the in and out of every single play. It needs to be. He demands it. He's very passionate about it. It needs to be a quarterback that's going to be as passionate. Well, maybe not as passionate and as energetic. I don't know that anyone can be that passionate or energetic, but they need to know the offense just as well as he does. And that's a high standard. And as you can expect, a lot of players will not be able to live up to that. But that's what the scheme requires, and that's what he expects. And if you're not meeting that standards, the scheme probably won't work. But outside of just the quarterback, it relies on a lot of short pass, even yards after catch, high completion percentage type throws. Basically, we're going to dump it off to the running back, dump it off to the tight end in the middle on a mismatch or a slot wide receiver. And we're going to keep these high percentage plays and pick up little chunks here and there and hope one breaks, breaks off and gets the big touchdown. Try to make a guy miss, but if you don't, then at bare minimum, you got 4 yards and you're staying positive and you're getting closer and closer to sticks. You're running that time off the clock, and you're just driving down the field, or you get one to break and, you get the touchdown. But really, it's a scheme that's hard to defend and hard to execute. A lot of pre-snap motion from the tight ends, wide receivers, running backs. A lot of guys moving, very exotic. Trying to expose that defense, trying to get the corners to move to expose. Whether they're in zone, they're static, or they're staying with their guy. Yeah, and it's a 50-50 run pass, so we're not just trying to toss it through the air 24/7, and you're not running a Navy type offense where we're just running the ball down their throat the entire game. They try to keep a pretty even split. This scheme will also need a good pass catching running back. Again, you're getting the running back out on those flats and trying to get those short dump offs and those short pass plays. You need a running back running those Texas routes that he's so well known for. Just getting it out to the running back all the time. I guess a more old school element of this scheme that he likes to run is he likes to use fullbacks, and he likes his blocking tight ends. So obviously you'll need a tight end that can expose that soft spot in the middle and get the mismatches on the linebackers, but he likes to have plenty of blocking tight ends that can get in there and do the dirty work and grind out those short yards and keep the ball moving. Again, demands a lot from the quarterback. Needs to know it just as well as he does. Yeah, and I guess the last thing we can touch in on his offense there is it's a lot of play action, a lot of bootleg. So run, short, get everybody in, get that box crowded, and then play action bootleg, dump it over the top. That's kind of the staple of that offense there. Another pro that we'll get into is probably, I don't know the most significant one, but maybe the most obvious one is the marketing and ticket sales, the money you can make from this. He's obviously a very recognizable name, and that's not just nationally, that's locally too. Again, Tampa Bay head coach, lived in Florida for a very long time. This is someone who can bring viewership to not only the Orlando Storm, but the entire UFL, because people from all over the country know who Jon Gruden is and know how much this guy loves football. So you hire this guy, and you're immediately going to see the difference in terms of viewership and in terms of fan attraction. Best case scenario, we're looking at a situation where people will see this hire, and you're looking at a packed out stadium and excellent viewership numbers on TV, which is obviously, the perfect situation here. You want both. They've made it clear that they want to start locally with the stadium and selling seats, but if you can get both at the same time, obviously you're going to take that. But outside of just the recognizable name, he has a very strong personality, a very passionate personality. And a passionate personality evokes a passionate fan base. So he has the recognizable name, and that's one thing. But there are plenty of coaches with big names that are not passionate and do not evoke a passionate fan base. And I think the most obvious name that we can all think of there is Bill Belichick, a very smart guy and a very good coach in the NFL, but he's emotionless. He's stone cold, pretty much. There's nothing there. And that's great when you're winning. We can look past it when you're winning and you're all about ball, and we'll love that. But when you're losing, man, the fans can turn on you real quick. They want something. And a coach like that isn't going to give you anything. But a coach like Jon Gruden, he'll give you something. And he'll give you more than something. He loves ball. He's studying film for fun. The dude's heart is in it, and fans will love that. And again, it adds a layer of legitimacy to the Orlando Storm and the UFL. Not just the Orlando Storm, but the entire league. When you get people kind of looking at this league skeptically, are they serious? Are they for real? Are they even going to be here in a couple years? You get a big name hire like that, I think it kind of shores up some doubts there. Doesn't get rid of them for sure, but that's an official name. It's like an official name kind of sponsoring your product that you're trying to get people convinced is for real. So Jon Gruden, he would do great things, not just for the Orlando Storm and our team and our team's success, but for the entire UFL, trying to lock down their success long term. I think that's a huge move and would do great things towards accomplishing our long-term goals towards holding this league more than just a year, more than just a couple years. We're trying to keep this going on forever. this would be a great first hire for this team, for this new team, to accomplish that. And the next thing, and maybe this is honestly more obvious than the marketing aspect, is his energy. And I've already touched on that, but his competitive culture, his just love of ball. Like, you think of all the coaches and just all the people in general that love ball. And I think one of the first people that comes to mind for just how much they love ball, that's Jon Gruden. I mean, there is not another person. There are very few people that I can put in the same class of people that just love football as much as Jon Gruden. Um, you know, maybe the personnel isn't going to be as strong as the other team. Maybe the scheme just isn't a good match for the other team's scheme. But when you have Jon Gruden as your head coach, you know that the passion and the energy and the competitive nature is almost never going to be matched by the opposing team. I mean, that's the energy that very few people can bring. I mean, this dude lives and breathes football. So it's well known. I mean, through his playing career specifically, you see him constantly running up and down the sideline, very emotional, screaming, yelling, jumping up, very expressive in his facial expressions to certain plays. He actually garnered the nickname Chucky because of all these facial expressions that he would have. And how many coaches do you know that have a nickname? You got to have a certain character to you to garner a nickname, and he certainly has that. Actually, back in 2002, his Super Bowl winning season, Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks, not small no-name nobodies. Those are significant players. They said that playing for Gruden felt like a movie. It felt like and they fed off of his energy. It was like toxic, and that spreads. It's so good for a locker room, that type of energy, and just knowing that the guy that's leading you loves this, and it means a lot to him. And that's the type of guy you go out there and you put you put it all on the line for. That's the type of guy that you'll follow into battle proudly. And of course, he's the king of a pregame speech. All these little cheesy pregame speeches, and sometimes you're listening to him, you're like, man, just shut up. This is so corny. This sounds like it's out of like a Disney football movie. No offense to Remembering the Titans. That's a freaking classic, by the way. But he can do it, and he does it well. It's not corny. He'll get the dudes hyped up, and I can't think of someone better to give a hype speech than Jon Gruden. But he's also a coach that just embodies the most passionate fan of a team. So those fans who are out in the stands wearing those goofy costumes or got their whole body covered in paint, and they're just, whether their team's down by 30 or they're up by 30, they're out there screaming and going crazy and rooting for their team with everything they got. That's Jon Gruden. If Jon Gruden was a fan in the stands, that's the fan he would be. He's not the one sitting on his phone and, sitting there looking dull and lifeless and staring at the game and, not really getting into it. He's that fan. He's covered in body paint. He's in the front row or in the nosebleeds. Those fans are passionate, really passionate too, honestly, probably more so. And jumping up and screaming and going crazy, no matter the score, no matter the situation. He's going all in, all the time. And you love to see that. And that type of stuff, it wasn't on display just on the field. There's a long track record of stuff like that on programs like ESPN's Monday Night Football, while he's watching the game and breaking it down, doing commentary, and Gruden's QB Camp, those little shows where he's just, again, it's just ball. It's just all ball. Even when he's not coaching, he has to be doing something that's that corresponds to football. And it's obviously, these are all amazing things that you would want. And one quote that he said, "I don't just like football, I live football." I mean, and it's evident. He wears it on his sleeve. Everything he does, football, football, football. He says, if I'm not coaching, I'm studying. If I'm not studying, I'm talking about it. I needed somewhere to coach. I was going nuts without a team. And that was after he founded the FFCA, which is the Fired Football Coaches Association. And I guess that kind of leads us into our next point. He has ties to Florida, and this was an emphasis by Mike Rapoli, that we want to we want to stay very grassroots, very local to the community. And Jon Gruden has had a home in Tampa. I'm not sure if he still lives here, if this is his primary residence, but he has lived in Tampa for large portions of his life and raised his family in Tampa, um, and still has a home in Tampa to this day. So he obviously has very close ties to Florida and would check that box off, you know, easily. Brought Florida their first Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and his son attended USF. I'm gonna say you attended the wrong Florida University, but hey, it's still Florida, and for now we're all on the same team. Whenever we get that war on I-4 going, we can start the crap talk. But for now, we're all one big family here rooting for the Orlando Storm. So his son attended USF, and his whole family has ties to the state. And then, of course, he founded the FFCA in Tampa, where he mentored many different draft prospects, including, you know, QB legends Andrew Luck and Cam Newton. And if you want to complain about me calling them legends, you can shove it. All right, I'm sorry, but they're both legends in their own right. Andrew Luck, he may have gotten injured and ended his career somewhat early, but at least at Stanford, you can say the dude was a legend at Stanford. He was a legend for the Colts on those crappy Colts teams and just dragging them in the playoffs. Until his career was cut short, obviously, and he retired. But Cam Newton, obviously a legend at Auburn. Obviously, he had legendary seasons with the Panthers and had an MVP season just short of a Super Bowl. He mentored these prospects. And I guess transitioning from those pros and that large decorated history of ball, we'll start with the cons. And the first con, we'll just go ahead and get it out of the way. This is the elephant in the room, right? It's the off the field drama. And if somehow you don't know about this, I'll go ahead and get a little bit into it right now. I'll call it the email scandal, Emailgate. This is what led to him quitting after that 3-1 start with the Las Vegas Raiders in 2021. Basically, some emails that were sent from Jon Gruden to Bruce Allen, which was a Washington Commanders executive at the time, Washington football team, containing homophobic, sexist, and racist remarks, were discovered by the NFL during an investigation into the Washington Commanders. So the investigation had nothing to do with Jon Gruden, but because they were investigating the Washington football team, they found these emails. Those emails were then leaked to various media outlets, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. Jon Gruden did come out and apologize for those remarks several different times. He made several public statements, saying what he said was wrong and he shouldn't have said that. But he then sued the NFL, basically saying they intentionally leaked those emails to target Gruden, to build a specific narrative, and they selectively leaked certain emails that made him look worse and did not leak the other ones that kind of cleared things up. Excuse me, sorry. And so that lawsuit was ongoing, and obviously the whole situation led to his resignation in 2021, like I just said, and right now it's still moving forward with public proceedings despite the NFL's attempts at trying to get this into arbitration, which if it were to get into arbitration, the NFL would have full authority of how to deal with the situation, which obviously they would shut it down immediately. So far, they've failed at trying to get that into arbitration, but it's still ongoing in public, and the NFL is basically arguing that since Jon Gruden is a former employee, that they have the right to handle it in-house. The Nevada Supreme Court basically just said it doesn't matter because he's not a current employee. Since he's not currently employed by the NFL, they have no right to keep it in-house. It has to be handled through the public court system, and that's kind of the last thing we know now. But regardless, this is ongoing, and it will be ongoing if he is a head coach of the Orlando Storm. And it's something that, it's it's baggage that we'll have to deal with, and who knows how much that will intermingle with things and complicate things, and all this drama, how much drama it'll bring. But it is something to consider at the very least. Maybe it would be nothing, and he'll handle this on his own time outside of the football team, but it's something you have to consider, and something that you can't just ignore. It's a very significant thing that's going on, and it potentially could bring negative press to the team. But um, I guess we just have to consider that if that's a decision that we make. But just getting back to football and not the drama, a serious concern that we have to consider is, can he adapt to modern NFL or modern football in general, the schemes and all of that sort. Defensive schemes have adapted a lot since the early 2000s, and though he has coached recently, I think it's safe to say the majority of his success came in the early 2000s. So really we have to consider, does his scheme and does his philosophy hold up in modern football? Can he attack modern defenses, and does he know how to play against them as well as he did back in the 2000s? I think so, but it's another thing you just have to consider. You have to look at these things when you're deciding whether to bring this guy in as the head coach of your team or not. So his most recent coaching tenure, it wasn't really successful. Only a 22-31 record, barely, just over 40% winning rate. It's just not good enough. And again, it was kind of getting off to a good start in that year that he was fired, but coulda, shoulda, woulda at that point, right? It never came to fruition. So we got to see what Jon Gruden are we going to get? Are we getting 12-4 Super Bowl winning, or are we getting 22-31? We'd have to figure that out. We'd have to hire him and figure that out and see if that offensive scheme can hold up in against a modern defense. And one more, it's kind of more of an iffy one than it is a straight up negative, but well, I guess really all of them are, right? Like, none of these are straight up negatives. They're just things we have to consider when we're bringing this guy in. It could go poorly, in the worst case scenario. These are things that could come back to bite us. And that's the talent evaluation. It's been inconsistent, I think, to say the least. We'll start off with the good, and obviously Max Crosby, probably one of the best value picks of all time. He's easily a top 2-3 defensive end right now, if not the number one defensive end, and they got him in the 4th round out of Michigan State. Not really much to say on that. I mean, Max Crosby, he's a beast. I mean, absolute beast. Hunter Renfrow, wide receiver out of the 5th round, a pretty good wide receiver, got him in the 5th round. And Colton Miller, he was in the 1st round, so not really a value pick, but he turned out to live up to his value. And then in the bad, we got Damon Arnett as a 1st round cornerback, never really lived up to that draft status. Clelin Ferrell, 4th overall. I think they looked at that as a reach, and kind of proved to be true. He was a bust. Brandon Parker, offensive tackle, tried him at guard. He just sucked at both of them. Arden Key, defensive end, and Maurice Hurst, all just, would be considered busts by most people. And then one that I kind of put in here, Raiders fans might take problem with me mentioning him, and they probably know exactly who I'm going to mention right now because he's an icon of the franchise. But, man, anytime you choose a kicker in the 1st round, it's a questionable decision. And I don't know if any kicker has ever been chosen in the 1st round other than this guy. And that is Sebastian Janikowski, franchise icon, but undeniably, it's just a bad value. You can get legendary kickers as undrafted free agents. So to choose one in the 1st round, it's certainly a swing. I wouldn't say it's an outright miss, though. It certainly was for his rookie season. Only a 68% kicking percentage in your rookie season. Looked like a bad miss. But, it kind of came together later on. I mean, he played 17 years and never missed a single game. Um, so, they had kicker locked down for a very long time. And he ended his career with an 80% clip, which is much better than 68%. But still, all things considered, it's not. There's definitely better and there's definitely worse. But for a first round pick, it's like, you know. Uh, so it's tough. For me, I would say that was a bad pick. But again, if you're a Raiders fan and you really just love the guy, I'm sure you don't blame him for it. But when you consider all pro running back Sean Alexander was drafted just a few picks after, if I can't remember what pick it was after, but he was drafted right after you chose a kicker. Yeah, I would say you made a bad choice. Between Sean Alexander and Sebastian Janikowski, come on, yeah, anybody would take Sean Alexander. So to me, that's a miss. But again, it's mixed. You have good picks there, you have bad picks there, but again, it's another thing that you have to consider. Um, it's a very important part, and he's someone that wants to be involved in this process. It's not like you say, oh well, he's the coach, so we can just dump that off on the GM. No, he wants to be involved in those decisions. He's huge on the talent evaluation, and he's had some pretty big misses. So you got to consider that when you're contemplating bringing this guy in as a head coach. Um, another big if, it's the salary demands. I mean, it's a big name and it's a big resume. It's going to be big money. Can the UFL and can the Orlando Storm afford that? It's not the NFL. It's a smaller professional football league, and we've seen this with other professional football leagues, right? That have tried to challenge the NFL or be an alternate to the the NFL. Um, Money is usually what does them in, and we want this thing to last, and we want it to last long term. You're going to put big money towards a head coach, and if that don't work out, it doesn't bring you the return on investment that you're hoping for. It could be a contributing factor to not only the Storm shuttering, but the whole league. I mean, it's a big decision. You're going to pay big money, and you better hope it pays off if you pay that big money. Um, so that's the question. Would it pay off? Now, personally, all that aside, pros and cons, obviously, I'm all for it. I think the Jon Gruden hire would be a home run hire for all those pros I mentioned. We're talking the big energy. You're bringing that passionate fan base in locally and nationally. That's kind of the key for me, is you're going to get people who say, oh, Jon Gruden, like that's an official name. That's an official sounding name, and then you tie that into the UFL, and obviously it's going to bring headlines. There's a lot of people who don't even know what the UFL is, but then they're going to see Jon Gruden accepts deal with the Orlando Storm, and be like, Orlando Storm, what the hell is that? And then they're going to see, okay, what is this? And that works nationwide and locally, because people locally know him as Tampa Bay head coach who brought us a Super Bowl. Nationally, they just know him as Jon Gruden from everything. So again, more eyes, more money. Then in terms of success on the team, that high-powered offense with all the Florida athletes you can bring in here, man, I mean, it seems like such a recipe for success, but it is certainly a big swing. But I think that's how you have to do it. You have a league like this, you can't play it safe. You cannot play it safe, or we're gonna end up like the XFL and the AFL and all these the WFL and all these other leagues. You gotta swing big, man. And if you miss, you miss. But if you hit, and you can get this into a long-term league with long-term success, man, I mean, that's something special. So, yeah, I think that's it, guys. I would do it. It's a home run hire. If they have the potential, like if they have the capability of making this happen, it's a no-brainer to me. You have to do it. You got to make it happen. Mike Rapoli, make it happen, man. I don't know what it costs. I don't know how the budget lines up and what you can afford and what's acceptable and what's not, but if you're capable of making it happen, make it happen, dude. Bring Jon Gruden to Orlando. Let's figure out the GM. Let's get this thing going. But yeah, I mean, that's it, guys. Another video, and let me know what you think. Hit like, hit subscribe, and tell people about the podcast, and just tell people about the Orlando Storm. Let's get this going. Let's make sure we keep this team this time, right? Let's keep professional football in Orlando. I want to see it work, not just for myself, but just for Orlando, for the city, and for the team, and for the whole league, man. I want to I want to make this work. So let's go. Let's get some hype and let's get it going. I'll see you on the next one. Go Storm, Sir John.